You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome back to Horror Ramblings, your source for all things horror. I'm your host, Stephen White, and our usual co-host, Lester Blosser, is away doing something or other. I don't know, I didn't ask. He's just got things going on, which is understandable. Life happens. But I did bring along my co-host of another podcast that we need to kind of get back on track on. And has also been on this podcast once before, my wife, Katrina.
Hello.
Now, we originally talked about Child's Play on the first episode that you joined me on.
Yep.
And I figured we would dig into another franchise that recently came to a close, in a manner of speaking. Mm-hmm. And I thought it would be fun because there's a lot of conversation going on about this at the moment. First and foremost, before we even get started to anything, apologies for any extra noise you may be hearing in the background. We're not recording in our usual space, so there may be other little noises. Hopefully they won't be so loud. Hopefully they won't be very distracting. Just heads up if you hear stuff that you're not normally used to hearing. I apologize. Got to do what we got to do, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't really know what Lester and I were going to talk about. I think this would have been our topic of conversation, and I'd still love to hear his opinions on everything, because I know that we've discussed some of this before.
Yeah.
And we were a little divisive, much like the internet. But we're going to be talking about Halloween, and specifically we are going to be talking about Blumhouse's Halloween, David Gordon Green's directorial trilogy that reinvigorated or ruined, depending on how you want to look at it, the Halloween franchise.
I mean, I will personally say that it is my favorite out of the Halloween franchise.
And I guess before we even dig in, I personally, too, I agree with you. I really enjoyed all three of these films. And if you are someone who does not like these films, I really want you to kind of stick with us and listen, because I don't want to knock anyone who doesn't like it. Your opinion's your opinion. Our opinions are our opinions. So I don't want to say that we're right and you're wrong and vice versa. It's not the conversation we're having here. What I want to explore with us is our takes, our feelings of the franchise, or of this trilogy, should I say. And we can kind of dig into some of the others. But I wanted to explore these films. I wanted to talk about these films. I want to talk about what we took from them. Mm-hmm. And maybe even perhaps, I would love to open up a conversation to those who don't like it. And I want to understand what it is specifically, because I have an inkling. I think I understand what may have driven people away. Yeah. Maybe what their issues with the films are, especially with the last one, because I can agree Halloween Ends is polarizing for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't necessarily feel like a genuine Halloween film that we've seen time and again. But we'll get to that as we go. So let's start with the original 2018 Halloween.
Yes.
Because that's what it is. Now, I think one aspect of that, since they called it Halloween, some maybe like, well, why didn't they call it Halloween Returns or Halloween, whatever? Why is it just Halloween 2018? Well, I genuinely feel that you can kind of remove John Carpenter's original and you can start from there. You don't really need that. The film honestly is there. Yeah, sure. But you can just go in with the understanding that this woman was attacked. Laurie
Yeah.
Strode was attacked when she was a kid. It screwed her up. It terrorized this town.
Yeah.
And that's all you really need to know. I mean, you don't need a lot of the original movie to make this one work.
Yeah. Like, I feel like even with, like, you know, the whole flashback things, it's no different than any other movie that didn't, you know, there's several other kinds of movies and stuff like that that have flashbacks that don't flash back to a particular movie that came before them or anything like that.
Sure.
So you could even say that the flashbacks in the 2018 one, I mean, if there wasn't an original Halloween with Laurie Strode, then that's all you'd view it as is, oh, we're just seeing bits and pieces of her story from when she was a teenager and why it messed her up and everything else. So I agree you could remove it, but I do love the original Halloween with, you know, Laurie Strode and everything. And then, of course, the 2018 one, like, I feel like it works better than any other Halloween movie that came after the first one. Because Michael disappeared, and then he came back decades later just to terrorize this person that got away from him. Mm-hmm. And it's not like he came back, you know, from hiding or anything like that. He was locked away and just biding his time just to come back for her. And I feel like that's an amazing thing because she did live in like a panic-stricken state for decades. And this one person caused it.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you honestly think that he had been waiting for her all that time? Or do you think that it just was a matter of circumstance? Because don't forget, in that film, the doctor who was treating him after Loomis had passed kind of put him on that path, you know?
I mean, like, I feel like he was waiting and biding his time. Like, I feel like he is one of those, you know, in the original, after he killed his sister, he went away and was locked up for a long time. He got out, he came back, he started killing again. So it wasn't necessarily in the very first movie that, you know, he was looking for somebody to just put his hooks into. But then when he found Laurie Strode, you know, she's that final girl who got away and was able to get away and continued to get away.
Yeah.
And I think that when it came from the original to the one of 2018, he spent decades locked up. He hasn't been able to kill people. You know, we don't know what necessarily drives him. It has never been explained.
And
so
that's even an aspect, too, that I will kind of bring up real quick, is I was actually talking to a buddy of mine, Patrick, and he was talking about how he, you know, his thoughts of Halloween Ends. But he also mentioned, you know, he kind of wished that they had explored more of Michael Myers' past.
See?
And I told him, I said, I feel like if you had done that, you would have done a disservice to the point they were trying to make.
Yes.
And we'll get into that a little later because I don't want to, you know, get ahead. But back to 2018, him, you know, biding his time. I mean, it very well could be the one that got away, you know, just always stuck in his head. And I'm curious if, because the movie almost seems like once the mask was reintroduced, once they started poking the bear, like the podcasters and everything, it's almost like it unlocks something. And there's elements to that I guess could be viewed from a purely psychological standpoint. Maybe they're a therapist or people who've actually dealt with these type of people who could explain that in greater detail.
I honestly always kind of viewed it as, you know, with somebody who has any type of like obsessive type disorder, like you can get obsessed about one particular thing. And I feel like that's because we talked about it after we watched the newest one, because I made the comment of why does Michael always seem to freak out when somebody removes his mask? I mean, we've seen his face before. We've seen his face as a child. We've seen his face as a man. So it's, people know he's Michael Myers, you know, he's not, you know, not somebody we've never seen or didn't know who he was. But I feel like it's almost, he feels like the mask is what gives him power. He feels like that is what makes him more than human. He's something else when he has that mask on.
Right.
So I feel like when he was standing there in the insane asylum and they showed him that mask, like the whole pool thing that they're talking about, it's like it's calling to him. No, he's somebody who's massively fucked in the head, and that is his possession. You're holding his possession, and he wants his possession back.
Yeah. I mean, it could almost be looked at like a security blanket. There's something
Exactly.
about it he needs, and it fuels like everything. It almost like I guess, kind of in the same vein as a security blanket, it's almost something that once he puts it on, it gives him the power or the ability in some essence to say, okay, now I feel comfortable going out and killing people. I feel like this gives me the strength to do it, even though we're not talking in a, supernatural sense. Just in his head, is like, now I can do it.
Exactly. Like, you need that one thing, and I mean, pretty much all of the horror movie icons have it. Freddy has his glove. He doesn't, I don't feel like he's ever acted the way like Michael acts when it comes to like his glove, but even Jason with his mask and then his machete. Like, these are iconic things that he has, and we know obviously Michael Myers is iconic for the way he dresses and then using the big kitchen knife.
Right.
But it's not like he has one particular kitchen knife. And in the last movie, he does remove a really old rusty knife, when we see him again. So you're like, oh, well, he kept it, from the movie before. But he's never necessarily done that I've ever recognized. He just finds a new one and goes about his business. But his mask is the one thing that he has always kept from the first time he put it on all the way up to now. That's why it's beaten. That's why it's torn up. That's, why it looks the way it does, just like Jason's hockey mask.
Now, to be clear, we're talking about the mask as in part of this trilogy is the same mask.
Yeah.
Because anyone could be like, well, what about in part 4? You got a whole brand new mask.
No. We're talking about the original and then 2018 and up. All the rest of them, as far as I'm concerned, didn't happen.
Right.
They were a fever dream.
and that's the other thing about this too, that I feel like when it comes to differing opinions, people need to kind of put into perspective, is that I think other people have said this before, and it's absolutely true. Halloween has become a pick your own adventure story, because you can go down 3 different timelines now, or just something completely new altogether, and it doesn't matter. So you can find what, which one suits you best. Yeah. And which one you find the most entertaining. Do you want Laurie to be his sister? You go down this path. Do you want Laurie to die and then start chasing his niece? Well, you go down this path.
Yeah.
Do you want Laurie to have survived and just go into hiding? Well, you follow this path. Yeah. Or do you want him not to be related to her in whatsoever? Go down this path. Do you want something completely new altogether? Rob Zombie. Here you go. Yeah.
And Rob Zombie is definitely one of those that I feel like took the extra supernatural path.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with those. Like, I respect him as a filmmaker, and I know a lot of people don't. I know the Monsters got torn to shreds, and I'm not going to be one of the apologists for it. It could have been better. It had its flaws, but it also had some strengths. So it was middle of the road for me.
I mean, as somebody who never watched the original Monsters, but my father was a very big fan of it, which he has not seen Rob Zombie's, but I've showed him the trailer for it. And he's actually been talking about it with, other relatives or older people who, grew up on it and everything. And he said that, he hasn't watched it, but it seemed fun because it was before they had children.
Right.
And he's like, I always kind of wondered what it had been like, type thing. But I will honestly say the only thing I found that I did not like about it was the main guy's laugh.
Herman, yeah.
It was just so, like, if it was once or twice, or when he gets really excited that he does that laugh, it would be fine. But to do that laugh every freaking time he laughed was just oh, it got old so fast.
It felt a little over the top. And again, Herman or Fred Gwynn, who did him in the original series, he had a bit of a laugh, but I always remember it kind of being raspy, like from the throat, like
Yeah.
like he was just gasping for air, that type. I don't ever remember the loud chuckle, so maybe, but it's been a long time since I've watched The Munsters, so maybe I'll have to just go back but I don't ever remember it being that brash and obnoxious.
Yeah. Well, like I said, like well, obviously, you know, I've never watched,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the original or anything. Didn't even know who the hell they were until I got with you. So I don't know, like I like what they're doing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason that I like it is because it makes me think of like the Addams Family.
Yeah.
But it's such a different type of, it's so different from the Addams Family, yet the same.
Yeah, that's one of those arguments they always had back, like, who's your family, the Munsters or the Addams?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't feel like you can really compare them because the Addams Family, like, again, I don't know a heck of a lot about the Munsters, but at least from what I know about the Addams Family, they've always been a very tight-knit family, not just the main family, but all of the freaking relatives are tight-knit.
Yeah.
And they have that love that's just, like, otherworldly.
I mean, I would say that the Munsters kind of also leaned into that a little bit, but there are elements that, you know, differ.
Yeah.
And it's not really, because they only had the one kid, and then they had their niece come live with them. And
I feel like with the two monsters, the husband and wife, they're just, Morticia and Gomez will always be the epitome of what you should want a love relationship to be.
Yeah.
Like, they were just head over heels, absolutely in love with one another, never strayed from one another, would kill for each other. And it's like, it's such a beautiful, absolutely beautiful love story.
I don't ever think there was a moment that I can ever recall in any Addams, like, TV show, the movies, anything, where they actually had an argument.
No. Because their love just transcended everything.
Well, okay. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the Monsters or the Addams, but kind of going back to Rob Zombie's, just because I feel like having an understanding of where we stand with the rest of the franchise may help others who maybe disliked what we're saying we liked. Maybe we can understand where our ground comes from. Now, with Rob Zombies, I felt like he took the boogeyman out of Michael Myers. That's always been the fascinating part, because when you start digging into his childhood, you see him as this kid who's troubled, and you really dig deep into that, and you see him in the institution and all this other stuff. When he goes out on his killing spree at the end, he doesn't feel like a boogeyman. He just feels like this kid who was really messed up and just snapped, and then just became Michael Myers, or like as we know him, in a way. So there was just something kind of missing. That boogeyman element really helps sell the concept.
Like I said, that's why I feel like, especially with Rob Zombies, they laid heavily into like a supernatural aspect. Like, he was driven by something else. And especially like, when his sister or whatever was the one he was after. Wasn't she related to him? Yeah, when she, takes the mask and everything and comes out of the building, and like the vision of watching his mom and the white horse, or, that type of stuff. It was there's something else at play.
Right.
Which, with the new Halloweens, they kind of tried to hint at that in, was it Halloween Kills?
Yeah.
They kind of, hinted at it, where they're talking about how, the more he kills, the stronger he gets, and all this kind of stuff. But yet they never made him supernatural.
And that's actually something I want to dig into a little bit later as we kind of fold into that one, because I feel like there was a reason for that. But yeah, with Rob Zombies, I mean, part 2, that one I feel like is as divisive as probably this one.
Yeah.
Or Halloween Ends, because he did something that was completely different. I mean, it was unlike any of the other movies. And the visions with the white horse and his mom and just this acid trip that he was going through. I mean, I don't know what to really say about it. Now, I appreciated that take. My issue with the film, and one of the very last times, and probably the last time I watched it, I mean, I'm not a prude, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But God, there's so many fucks you can take in a movie where you're like, you can say something else, because it just, I remember being on the couch one night, and I don't remember why, like, what the situation was, but I was laying down watching it, and all I could hear was fuck, 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 fuck. And I was like, God damn. And I had to turn it off, because it was like, you're getting on my nerves, because that's all I'm hearing. I'm not hearing any dialogue. It's F this and F that and F, 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 F. And it was just annoying.
And you know it's a lot if you can't put up with it and you put up with me.
I mean, like I said, I don't have a clean mouth. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't say fuck on a regular basis, but that to me was just like, you are pushing it for me.
I definitely use fuck as a filler word for any sentence.
But it's like, that was just like, Jesus Christ, come on.
I get what you mean.
You know, it was a bit too much for me in that regard, and it's one of the reasons I've had a hard time revisiting it. But there are a lot of great actors in it, a lot of great ideas. But again, I felt like he took the boogeyman out of the boogeyman, and that's my issue with those films. I appreciate them for what they are, but it feels lacking in the true spirit of Halloween.
Yeah.
So again, that's one of the themes I want to explore. Now, when it comes to the original set of movies, I like Halloween 2. I thought it was a nice follow-up, and even though the Laurie Strode being a sister thing was
freaking weird,
it's a stretch, you know, and that's one of the things that John Carpenter has said, you know, he regrets ever writing that, because he didn't direct that film, but he helped, you know, write some of the script.
Yeah.
And he just, you know, they needed something.
I just always thought it was really weird. Like, where, you know, you saw Michael's older sister, who was what, like freaking 18, 19, like she was older. And then Michael was 10.
6.
Oh, 6? Damn, he did not look 6 in that movie.
Because...
Okay, well, he was a child.
Yeah.
Which means his parents would have had to have had her at least a little while after him, because we know that, you know, he's at least 6 years older than Laurie, because she sure as hell was not there when all of that crap went down. But it never set right. Like, it didn't seem right. Like, there was no reason to make her related to him.
Yeah.
He still could have had, which they proved with the new story, he still could have had that obsession. She's the one that got away. She's the one I didn't get to kill. She shot me. you know? She fought back and fucking won several times and chased him off, but he always came back to try to kill her.
Yeah. So that extra family dynamic is just, I don't know, shoehorned in as it felt.
Yeah.
It did work. I mean, for the rest of the films, we just accepted it and was like, okay, it's his sister, fine. And then you go to Halloween 4, continuing back, so it's been 10 years, she's supposedly dead. I love Halloween 4. I thought it was a great follow-up, even better, honestly, than Part 2. That could be divisive for some people, but I think Halloween 4 is a superior sequel, in my opinion. And then we get introduced to Jamie, that whole aspect of him going after his family. Then it feels like the sister thing was something that Carpenter worked in just arbitrarily, just like, it's his sister, whatever. And then from that point on, they felt that was a thread that they had to follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because from that point on, it was all about, well, he's coming after his niece. Well, now he's killed his niece. Now he's got to go after his nephew's son or whatever. You know, if we get into Curse. And Curse, you know, we were actually talking about that not that long, or just moments ago before we started recording. I don't hate it. It's got some issues for sure, but I don't hate it. I mean, I found it entertaining. Michael looks great. I mean, there's some good kills in it. It's a slasher film, and it's, I've seen worse. So I give it a pass. Then we get to the new timeline, Halloween H2O. Fucking love it. Because I felt like because that was one of those films that when I saw the trailer for the very first time, and I think I've actually mentioned this on this podcast before, the very first trailer for that I saw was in theaters, had no idea this was happening. This is pre-internet. So suddenly we're just introduced, like there's an atmosphere kind of going about and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And then the final shot was you see Jamie Lee Curtis's face pop up and you're like, huh? And then they flip it and then you see on the opposite side of the door, Michael Myers, you're like, oh shit. And if you knew the story, if you'd seen Halloween at that point, that was huge because you're like, she's supposed to be dead. Yeah. What the fuck? So it blows your mind. So you're trying to figure this out.
I will definitely say that is one thing that I do love about the Halloween movies, or at least the ones that do tie in Laurie Strode, or even when you think about Halloween, you think of Laurie Strode. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not just Michael Myers. When you think of any other, other than Chucky and having Andy.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only one where it's really, they're plagued by their survivor. But Laurie Strode literally is, like, on the same level as Michael.
Yeah.
I feel like with the Halloween movies, you don't have Michael without Laurie.
I mean, she is really the epitomous final girl for the franchise, unlike so many others, with exception. And I will kind of say, with exception, would be Sidney Prescott. Because she is the only other character, the only final girl that has been in every movie and has survived longer than she should have. But
but even though her tormentor is still Ghostface, it's always been a different person. Right. It's never been the same freaking person like Chucky and like Michael.
And that's where I feel like Laurie has the upper hand here because she's always been fighting the same person. Yes. So unlike Sydney, but Sydney has been through equal amounts.
Oh yeah, Cindy's been through it. Yeah, she's been through a lot.
But again, I mean, even looking at that from a different perspective, you got Nancy Thompson from Nightmare on Elm Street, but she was only in two movies for that character, 3 movies for the actress. I'll just say that for fairness' sake. But she's not the person. Might have been like one of his greatest enemies, Freddy, but there are others. There are so many other characters. Same with Chucky. Andy was the one that got away, but there's so many other characters that have been woven into the mythos that it's not dependent on that one character. Unlike Halloween, where Laurie is just like the linchpin, and that's not to dismiss like her daughter Jamie, or even Dr. Loomis for that matter. I mean, if you want to say, Dr. Loomis was, pretty much a linchpin longer because he was in the first 6 films. Obviously, old age caught up to the poor man, but he was there. So he was always chasing him.
I feel like he was never held on that pedestal like Laurie Strode was.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
And even with like the other survivors, there's at least 2 more survivors out of the originals that make it to the end of, Halloween, or makes it to Halloween Ends, and which is the sheriff and then the other girl.
Right.
But they still, like, they're forgettable characters. You're not going to forget Laurie Strode. You see her, that's Laurie Strode.
Yeah.
She's not ever going to be forgotten. She is always going to be like the epitome of final girls. Yeah. And I would say even over Sidney Prescott, she's still the epitome of final girls.
Sure. I mean, Laurie Strode and Michael Myers go hand in hand with the franchise. Yeah. I mean, it's
Batman
not a
and
question.
The Joker.
Right. It's not a question. They are 2 sides of that same coin. You have to have one with the other in a manner of speaking, even though what we're trying to say. They are just peanut butter and jelly.
Yes.
You good together.
Oh, yes.
So, but yeah, Halloween H2 I loved. I thought it was a great re-showdown of the two, trying to put them back together. Halloween Resurrection can get fucked. And if there is a soul, now this will be my stance. I said I'm not going to judge. But if there's a soul out there who wants to say that Halloween Ends is worse than Resurrection, you are absolutely wrong. This is like with Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. I understand there are weak entries.
Oh yeah.
But I can watch them and they bring me joy.
Yeah.
Halloween Resurrection is such a hard watch for me. Even as a fan, it's a hard watch because I'm like, fuck this movie. It's like they did not understand the character.
Yeah.
At all. And I understand and I respect them for trying something different. But it was absolutely a mess. And then, God, I don't even want to get into it. No. It's a hard watch for me. If you can watch it and you enjoy it, good for you. But there is no way, in my mind, any Halloween movie is worse than that one. That is bottom of the barrel, end of story. Period. That's my opinion. After that, that's where we got Rob Zombies because they realized they jumped the shark. Even worse than they ever had before. And then, of course, we're back to David Gordon Green. So just so you kind of had an understanding of where we stood, I do like the originals. I love every timeline. I respect what Rob Zombie did. And then we got here, and I wasn't sure what we were going to get because I think one of the biggest shockers a lot of people had is David Gordon Green and in some essence, Danny McBride. Mm-hmm. Those are two names you don't or did not at the time associate with horror. Yeah. Danny McBride, as we all know, he's a comedian. We see him in stuff like The Righteous Gemstones and Vice Principals, and he's a hoot. I love him. But he's not a name I would have necessarily associated with Halloween. Yeah. So people were like, well, this guy, what. But again, he's just an actor. He was never in the movies, or I don't remember him being in any of the movies for like a cameo or whatnot. But he was just a man behind the scenes, helping produce and write and whatever. And David Gordon Green, I felt like, put his best foot forward, trying to tell unique stories. And I feel this is one of the things I wanted to get into. Each film has a prevalent theme it's focused on. Yeah. Going with the original, I keep saying original, 2018, that was a theme of trauma. What does that trauma do to somebody? What would...
Not just to you, but to pass it down to your daughter and your grandchild and just, like it didn't just fuck up Laurie Strode, it fucked up her daughter. Mm-hmm. It, started to trickle down and eventually did trickle down to her grandchild. And this all happened because of one person decades ago. Yeah.
And what do people normally say in this situation? And they touched on these themes. Mm-hmm. Get over it. Get over it. Yeah. One of the things that I hate, and I've tried to actually put it in my head because I'm sure at some point in my youth that I said the same things. Mm-hmm. But when someone dies and someone's still grieving, you're just like, well, you got to get over it, man. You grieve however you want to grieve.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just get over shit. There are people we've lost. One in particular loss that we've had that we share. It's not something I think about, but sometimes it just hits. Yeah. And I can't explain it. No. I don't go out of my way to think about it or to dwell on it, but it happens. Yeah. So, and that's still me grieving. That's still you grieving when it hits. Mm-hmm. You can't help it. And you can't just get over it. This is somebody that you loved. Yeah. So in this situation, she went through some terrible shit. She almost died.
She almost died. She lost her best friend.
Too.
Like freaking the kids that she was watching and everything. Not only trying to keep herself alive, but try to keep these really young kids alive. Yeah. And having fucking nobody to help her. I know Dr. Loomis eventually shows up, but...
Right. But
fuck.
But even think about that through this lens. I mean, I'm going to assume that Dr. Loomis was never part of her life. As soon as Michael disappeared, or they finally caught him, as we found out in Kills,
Yeah.
that we're just like, okay, well, case closed. Everything's done. But she still has to live with that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm sure, I mean, clearly having a family, she tried,
Yeah.
but we don't know the long-term ramifications. She may have nightmares, things that she can't get over. And
like her daughter pointed out in that movie, like, you know, you're living, you know, because of this boogeyman and you've put your whole life around it. And she basically tells her that she shoved everybody away and created so many, like, chasms between them because of her always looking over her shoulder thinking Michael's going to be right there to kill her and to hurt her family. And she basically let her fear of this person that she knew was locked up control her entire life for years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something, you know, we don't know if she tried to get help or anything. They never really, I don't ever remember them really, you know, talking about if she ever went to therapy or God knows what.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because we've seen how people have treated Lori since then.
Yeah.
Like, she's treated as the crazy old lady. I mean, even in that movie, they literally talk about her just being crazy, like the shit never happened.
Yeah.
Even though there were several other freaking people who witnessed it, who lived it, and who survived it. But Lori was always looked at as, well, you're just the crazy old hermit who lives out and, you know, preparing for doomsday and it's never going to come.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that was also another thing that they even pointed out in Ends was that she provoked him.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that that's necessarily true. I mean, obviously, her preparation may have seemed a little ill-advised from the outside looking in. If we didn't go through that, some of us would probably think, he's locked away. I think you're just taking it a step too far. But she was there. She lived it. She saw what this man was capable of. Man took 6 bullets to the chest.
Yeah. I mean, look at literally regular freaking people that actually live in the real world who have built bomb shelters for, you know, nuclear disasters, who have built freaking zombie shelters. Like, there are literal people who are planning for the zombie apocalypse. So I feel like a woman living out in the middle of nowhere and making her house basically a fort, you know, like a fort, like, I feel like it's perfectly justified for somebody who went through something like that.
Sure. Apologies for the washing machine that just got very loud. Jesus Christ. But yeah, we don't know what she's going through. We're not in her shoes. But, I mean, these are perfectly plausible scenarios for a person to kind of go through these ideas, these fears, 100%. And just not knowing, because you don't know. She saw what he was capable of. She just panicked and has been haunted by this man. So she was just preparing for the
worst
possible
case scenario.
Worst case scenario.
The
may
what
never
if.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens? What if happens?
Yep.
And she's prepared, and even as he's out there, people still don't take her seriously. And
because
that's
they
frustrating.
think he's just, like, mentally disabled.
Yeah.
Like, they literally touch on that in the newest movie where they said, you know, you're the one who provoked and bullied a mentally disabled man, and then that's why he killed people.
Right.
Like, no, yes, he had mental problems. We all know that. He literally killed his sister in cold blood as well as several other people. But it's not like Laurie Strode ever, even in the original movie, ever did anything to provoke Michael or to ask, you know, for something horrible to happen to anybody. She was just an innocent bystander who he
targeted.
Exactly.
He's just like, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. And maybe it's because she reminded him of his sister.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it literally could just go back to him hating teenage girls and just anybody else for that matter, because obviously he kills more people than just teenagers. Yeah. But it could just be where, you know, he snapped, he killed his sister, and Laurie makes him think of his sister. So that's why he's targeted onto her for so long. Mm-hmm. But it's just that whole anybody who stands in his way is just gonna get it too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, as that movie kind of explored that, she, you know, set him up in a trap. They had a good showdown, I felt like. And then
fuck yes.
And then, you know, he gets trapped in her house. She sets it ablaze, but we all know better. She's going to find a way out.
She literally made that house a cage.
Yeah.
And I freaking loved it. I have always been one of those people, even though now I do like a lot of the horror movies and stuff like that, even with like, you know, Chucky. Absolutely love Chucky. Can't wait to see him die.
Yeah.
Like, actually die for real. Final time. No more Charles. Mm-hmm. Just because I like when those people who have been tormented finally get their happy ending. Mm-hmm. Like, one of my favorite movies, or two of my favorite movies that you showed me was the I Spit on Your Grave. Mm-hmm. And that bitch gets all kinds of revenge, and I absolutely fucking love it. And then, was it Last House on the Left? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where her parents fight back and, you know, save their daughter and kill the bad people. Like, I absolutely love when good people are able to overcome and take out the bad guy. Because I feel like even though everybody loves these boogeymen, they need to be able to be killed. Like, it's that whole, you're overcoming that fear. You're overcoming, you know, you're being a better person than you were at the beginning.
Right. Right. And with Laurie, again, she is able to trap her captor. She actually is able to, it seems, get her family to see that she was not crazy.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
they
the
kind of
boogie
realized that when he
appeared and
decapitated her son-in-law on the front lawn.
And Michael was back in full form. I mean, you can't deny he was every bit the boogeyman that he was portrayed in the original and everything that we'd seen. So I feel like that's why people really have a love for 2018. They might not love it as much as some of the others, but I think it ranks high on a lot of people's lists. Maybe not top 3, maybe top 5. I don't know. People got their taste. But Michael was Michael. Yeah. You know, he was the shape that we all came to fear. So Halloween Kills really threw me for a loop when it came to the divisive nature of it. Mm-hmm. Because we watched, like, it came out on Peacock, and I think this was right in the middle of COVID. Was it 2020 that came out? It had to have been. Because I feel like it's been a while. So if it wasn't 2020, it was 2021. I can't remember right offhand, but I feel like somewhere in there. But we watched it on Peacock because we were not about to go out and brave the theaters. Just wasn't going to happen. But we I watched it and I was eager to watch it again. Like it just like, oh my God, because the theme here, in my opinion, was about panic.
Oh yeah, mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria, for 100%. Sure.
100%.
And they let Michael off the leash. They said, all right, now he's pissed. I mean, he was on a mission before, but now he is just pissed.
Yeah.
Because every time he's on screen, it's just like, I am going to kill everybody I see in the worst possible way imaginable. And it didn't matter. And it was just like a bloodbath. That movie was an outright bloodbath. And I think that's the part of it that just, it boggles my mind as to why it's so divisive. Because I thought, isn't this everything you wanted?
Right?
Because he's on a killing spree.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know why it's divisive. Because people are like, well, it's got problems. But I've never heard people explain the problems.
I honestly, part of me, I feel like some people probably think one of the problems is bringing back so many of the older characters from the other movies. or the other movie. And then they basically all fucking die, except for 2 of them.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean,
they all get slaughtered. And while it wasn't heartbreaking, other than the one who was the little boy that
Connor.
Lori babysat, like his death, that shit sucked. Like, I think I mourned him over Lori's own fucking daughter.
Yeah.
Like, I just did not like her daughter. She was a bitch. Even after she knew Michael was back, she was still a fucking bitch. Mm-hmm. Like, fuck you. Your mom has done everything. If it was not for the way her mom raised her, she wouldn't have known how to shoot that freaking gun to help take down Michael. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't have known where everything in the house was. They wouldn't have had the house set up to freaking trap him. They would have died. Yeah. Because of Lori being the way she was. That's the only reason that bitch survived so long.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the one of the things, I guess, as far as a problem is concerned that I will kind of agree with is I remember there was a scene, and I feel it was toward the end. There were, I think it was the granddaughter, her boyfriend or supposed boyfriend, the guy she liked, whatever.
The one who got the absolute fuck kicked out of him by Michael and then died really brutally.
Yeah. So whoever the boyfriend was, and then was it a cop or somebody else? But they'd driven up to the house and they were gonna go in. Yeah. And they were just like, wait here, and I was like, no. We're not wait here. All three of you go in. This is exactly what you don't do in these movies. Yeah. You know, what are you do stupid?
Well, same with like her dumbass daughter going up to the top and the whole rethinking about, you know, how Michael always stood at this window and all this kind of shit. And your bitch ass goes up there knowing he's still around somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then you stand where they said he literally goes to stand. Yeah. Like, I can understand being like, I wonder why he chooses to stand here and all that kind of crap. But why would you be alone? Mm-hmm. Like, you were absolutely freaking stupid and you deserve to die, which she did. So I'm happy about it.
So, yeah, I mean, with that film, the mass hysteria was an element that I thought was fascinating because why hadn't, I mean, obviously we had, since this is a brand new timeline, but I guess they touched on it maybe in part 4, which again, one of my favorites is when Michael's back. Michael's still around. Michael's loose. What did they do? They said, lynch mob, let's go.
That's what I was going to say. First, they all panic because remember they basically, they don't kill him, but he jumps to his death, but the kind of mentally messed up man
but I mean, that
thought was Michael.
But that was a build-up. I mean, they built up to that.
I'm just saying, like, it went from that mass hysteria to them finally, and for the first time in any that I can think of, has ever made it to where the entire fucking town comes together to take down their boogeyman.
Well, again,
they finally said they had enough.
But that was what I said in part 4. I mean, granted, it was more like a bunch of rednecks with shotguns and pickup trucks.
That don't count.
But still, in the same idea that the town said, no, we're not going to let this happen again. Yeah. We're going to fight back. I liked that idea. I thought that was a fascinating idea, but to see how it gets out of hand, because when fear, panic, all that stuff, and what happens? An innocent man dies. I don't know what he ever did and why he was there. You know, an escaped mental patient. I don't know what his story was, but he didn't deserve to die that way.
No, he didn't.
Because they just saw the man and said, well, that's got to be him. Yeah. Even though it's been proven man's in a jumpsuit and a mask. Yeah. And you saw this dude.
And fucking tall.
Yeah, and tall.
Michael Myers is very tall and really freaking fit for an older man.
Not like this guy. So their panic. They were blind to everything, and they tried to hunt down and kill this man, and he panicked and just killed himself. Yeah. So an innocent man died because of this town and the fear that they allowed to consume them. Yep. I like that. I thought that these were interesting elements to the movie that we hadn't seen before, because it becomes, I know everyone wants to see Michael Myers. I get it. But it adds a layer. It shows what the boogeyman has done to this town.
Exactly. Like, it's not just, you don't have to just fear the man in the mask. You have to fear all the other people who also fear the man in the mask, because you let that seep in and you're like, oh God, he's going to kill me. He's going to kill my family. So let's kill him. Let's get him at all costs and go after him. And they had two different groups, because they had the one group that went after the escaped mental patient. And then you had the one that was led, what was his name?
Tommy.
The one that was led by Tommy, who actually tracked down Michael. And like, even when it came to their group and when they have him and you literally think like, oh shit, this is the end of Michael Myers. And then no, the fuck it ain't.
Yeah.
And he does probably one of the best killing scenes ever in any freaking horror movie. Like, he is a single man who takes down at least 20 fucking grown adults who not only had weapons, but some of them had guns.
Yeah, and stupidly did not use them.
Exactly. And you're just sitting there thinking, and that's where I really like where it, kind of goes off of the whole, is he just a man in the mask? Is there something supernatural about him? Because that's when Laurie starts telling the sheriff that, the more he kills, the stronger he gets. Like, he's going to be unstoppable and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, fuck, is he really?
Yeah.
Like, how are they going to stop Michael Myers? He's going to, he just wiped out 20 damn people who had him surrounded and had him dead to rights. And he got up and fucking killed every goddamn one of them.
And again, part of it that I just don't understand when it comes to the hate is like, isn't this what you want?
Exactly.
This is your killer being the most badass he's ever been.
Yes.
Showing that he is just a beast.
Yeah.
So they did kind of, they skated this line, like you said, where it seems like they're giving you this element. It's like, is he supernatural? I don't know, but kind of.
They're wanting you to.
They're
like,
making you
toil
question
with it. Yeah.
But this is where I honestly feel this is why it was such a smart way to do it without really committing to it.
Yeah.
Is you are now creating the legend of this boogeyman. You are cementing it because you've seen what he's done. You are giving everybody this idea that he is just this unstoppable killing machine that will never be stopped, and we should all panic. So when we roll into Halloween Ends and he just disappears, the panic has set in.
Yeah.
The entire town is still reeling from this, and they're dealing with it in their own ways. They showed how people were kind of succumbing to their own fears.
Yeah.
And just
killing innocent people.
Killing themselves.
Yeah.
Just random acts of violence. You're just kind of confused by it all, but it's because the legend of the Shape has just like dug its claws into this town so hard that everybody's just like, I don't know when the hell he's coming back, but he's just going to kill us all, and I don't know what to do. Because there was never closure. He disappeared like a phantom.
Exactly. He took out almost all the strong
men.
It
was a lynch mob.
Yeah. He took out an entire group of people, and the last person he killed was Laurie Strode's daughter, and then he just fucking vanished.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he left, in that movie alone, he left so many fucking people in his wake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think more than we have ever seen in any of the others. He left.
Now, if there's somebody out there who's been doing a kill count, you can confirm or deny.
Like, I just feel like it's gotta be a lot of freaking people. Just the mob alone was a lot of people. And that's at the end of the freaking movie. Mm-hmm. So many. Like, but at the beginning of the movie, he killed the entire fucking fire department.
Which, I still don't understand why well, not everyone, but there was this group of people who got so butthurt saying, hey, he's killing our heroes, and
it's Michael Myers.
It's fiction.
And he doesn't let people live.
Why is it okay that he killed cops, but firefighters were a step too far?
Firefighters are a step too far. Well, I mean,
they're people.
Yeah.
It's not like he walked out of that fire going, you know what? These are good guys. You know what? Y'all go ahead and fight this fire. I'm just going to walk on.
Exactly.
I mean, why would he do that?
He doesn't discriminate.
Right. So I don't understand that I still,
Like-
to this day, don't understand that.
Honestly, other than the new kid that they introduced in the new movie, well, I call him a kid, but he's an adult, Corey. The only other innocent that we really, which, well, Corey's not as innocent, but still, the only other person, because Michael does kill a kid in the 2018 one.
He did.
And granted, he wasn't a little kid, but he was a child, you know, not a teen. He was a child. And I know a lot of people, including myself, held my breath when his ass walked up on that baby in the crib and just sitting there thinking, are you really going to have fucking Michael Myers kill an infant? And he just walked away.
Yeah.
As far as we know, that child survived. Never touched on again that I ever remember. So as far as we know, that kid survived. But that's the only person I've ever seen Michael Myers just turn away from. When it's not, you know, oh, I can't kill you now, I'm just going to come back later type deal.
Honestly, they did that, I think, just to kind of give us that gas, because I remember it too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, shit.
Like even the kid at the beginning, the kid in the car when Michael gets out and, you know, he, like, his dad dies and we're like, oh, fuck, you know, we knew his dad was going to die. But then when he gets back in the truck and Michael kills him, and I'm just like, holy fuck, like, he just killed a child. We have never seen him kill a child. He went after the two that Lori, you know, Tommy.
Yeah, but I mean,
Girl,
never.
But he never specifically went after them. He was after Lori, and she just grabbed him and ran.
It's like they were in proximity, so they seemed in danger, but not
Exactly.
quite. And even, I mean, that goes the same with Jamie. I mean, I know that's his niece, and he was technically after her, you could say, to kill her, but it never seemed like he was. I don't know. There didn't seem to be that necessary danger per se. You know, he was after her, but it's like, everybody else is going to stop me from getting her.
Yeah.
So when I get her, what are you going to do with her? You know, maybe he's just going to take her and he's going to run off with her. We don't know.
Yeah.
So we're not 100% sure. But like you said, seeing that kid die, I was like, oh, fuck. It changes the dynamic. So when we go from that to him walking up on that baby, you're like,
Exactly. You're
Don't
like, you
do it.
better fucking not. Like, I like you. Do not fucking kill a baby.
yeah.
Like, I really, because obviously I don't like watching children die
No.
in movies. And that is one of the things, I can't think of any where you see a kid die out of, you know, Freddy Krueger. You
Sure.
never really see any of the actual children die, like the children.
Yeah.
Chucky. Never see any little kids die.
Until.
Even though, until. Yeah, new episode, spoiler alert. But you never see them die.
Yeah.
And we know for a fact, Jason, he does not kill children. He has walked into an entire freaking bunkhouse full of little kids. Turn around, walk the fuck out. He has no interest in hurting children. But Michael Myers, he's just never really been face to face with kids other than when they've been around adults that he's after.
Yeah.
So you're always kind of like, well, he's going to be like Jason. He's not going to hurt kids because they're innocent and all that kind of crap. But no, he just didn't seem to. It's like, I feel like if he had killed Laurie Strode at, you know, when he first came in contact with her and she had them kids, if he had killed her, he would have probably killed them too.
I could agree. I would agree. Now we're going to get into the meat, which is Halloween Ends, since we've transitioned.
I'm so fucking happy with this movie.
Okay. I didn't know what to expect. We maybe watched the one trailer that came out. There were probably others, but I didn't really want to know anything. And then Lester had to come at me with some, you know, knowledge about some things he heard about some things. And when I heard it, he had heard, and I don't know what side he heard it on or what, but he had said, yeah, there's, you know, if you see in the trailer where Michael kind of reaches out of the wall of the sewer, and, you know, he said he heard that maybe he transfers his power into this kid, and now the kid is like his proxy, and he goes, and now he's killing. And when he told me that, I said, I don't know, dude, that's going to piss a lot of people off.
Yeah.
Because in my head, thinking about it from that perspective, I was like, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah.
Because, no.
Exactly. That
No.
plays on that whole supernatural aspect.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want Michael Myers to be supernatural. He doesn't need to be supernatural to be the freaking person that he is.
Right. Knowing that ahead of time, I was a little reluctant going in. Then I started seeing reviews. And then I was starting to be suspicious if he was right. Because the very first review that I read, I'm going to give a shout out to my boys over at Joe Blow. Jimmy O gave a fairly decent review of the film, but he mentioned Corey, and he was being very vague. He didn't want to talk about him a lot. But he said, I'm being vague for a reason. He said, you got to watch it. He said, but Corey is kind of your focal point of the movie. He said, but I don't want to explain a lot of the details why. And then when I heard that, I was like, But when he gave it a 7 out of 10, and him being a diehard Halloween fan, I was like, okay, I'm giving. Apparently, maybe it's not as Lester had heard. Maybe it's not quite like that. So I don't know. I'll have to put it away. Maybe it won't be that because I don't like that idea already.
Yeah.
And when we sat down to watch the film, I let all my expectations disappear.
Yeah.
I just said, I'm going to lay down, I'm going to watch this movie. And I was captivated by this film. I don't know why specifically it latched on to me this way, but it's like I understood everything that David Gordon Green was trying to do with this film. Every element he was trying to explore. Because it's about demystifying the boogeyman.
Oh, yeah.
It's about understanding all of these things that we've been looking at through one lens and deconstructing it backwards. So take Corey, for example. If you think about it, he is the polar opposite of everything Michael Myers is.
Yeah.
He was not a child. Corey is an adult.
Yep.
Corey was not the babysat. He was the babysitter.
Yeah.
He had a bright future ahead of him.
Oh, yeah. Was talking about going to college, was excited.
Yeah.
Like, just, he's babysitting this kid for just extra money.
Yeah.
Like, he was a good... Even his interactions with the child at the beginning when he first gets there and, sitting there talking about, it's Halloween, we're going to have a great night.
Yeah.
Like, he was excited to be watching this kid who we're going to presume he's probably watched before since, he had a good relationship with the child's parents and what seemed to be with the kid.
Yeah. There was all of this going for him. And then when it came to the really surprising, like I know we didn't expect this at all.
Oh, fuck no.
I don't know. I mean, as the scene was playing out, the kid, hopefully anyone who's listening to this right now has watched the movie.
There's going to be massive spoilers.
Yeah,
so if you have not watched the movie, stop listening now.
Yeah, you shouldn't be listening to this right now.
No.
So at the beginning, the kid decides he's going to play a prank.
Which we didn't know.
We didn't know. And I thought that was very clever too, because then you start to wonder, it's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Because
I legit thought Michael was just going to fucking pop out. The only part that I questioned was the knife that went missing, because it's not his normal knife. It was a fucking bread knife.
Yeah.
And that was the only part where I was like, would he actually take that knife? Because we saw 3 different types of knives laying out. And then we saw the one knife and then the whole knife block.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the only part where I kind of questioned if it was, just like a misunderstanding, like the kid was, just being an ass, which we found out the kid was being an ass.
So, and funny enough too, the fact that the knife was laying on the steps should have been a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Because I was not going to let that shit go. Bread knife or not, he might have just been like, damn it, I got to, I got to use what I got, but, I guess. But he's not just going to leave it lying around. So the kid plays this prank, thinks it's funny, and then when Corey is trapped in the closet, he goes into panic. Now, they didn't touch on it.
Oh, it was the attic.
Or the attic, whatever
Yeah.
whatever it was. We don't. I mean, he could have been claustrophobic for all I know. Like, if you've ever been in this situation, and I have before, like, I've never thought of myself as being claustrophobic.
Yeah.
But if you've ever been, like, you know, have some asshole put you into a box
Oh, I have.
and sit on it, and you
Shout out to my little sister, Emily.
and then you feel like you can't get out.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, panic sets in real quick.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what happened to him. He's like, let me out, let me out, let me out.
You also have to realize, too, that kid was young. So while he knew of Michael Myers, which he does state because he was having, you know, trouble sleeping, wetting the bed type stuff. But Corey was old enough to remember Michael Myers coming to their town and slaughtering people. You know, it's only been a freaking year.
Yeah, so he'd probably been 20 at the time. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, he knew. He has every right to be terrified of this man. He knows he's still fucking out there. While the kid's just looking at it as, you know, haha, you're scared of the boogeyman, look at you.
Yeah.
He doesn't think of how Corey could already be fucked up from just seeing everything that happened.
And furthermore, it being a child, you know, kids aren't going to think about it. They're just like,
Exactly.
in the moment.
It's just, oh, I'm playing a prank on this
Yeah.
adult who thinks that, you know, he's not scared.
Right.
Because that's literally where it stems from. They started picking on each other because the little boy started getting scared during a scary movie. And, you know, the little kid tells Corey, he's like, you know, you're scared because Michael Myers is still out there and he's going to get you.
Yeah.
Like, it's just him trying to be like, haha, see, you are scared just like me. And he just took it to an extreme. And when Corey panicked and started kicking down that damn door.
Yeah. That was the last thing I expected because they
Yeah.
were intercutting a lot of this panic to his parents coming home. And I thought, well,
Yep.
when they come in, they're going to blame him for, you know,
yelling, I'm
what-
going to kill you or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
And I was just
"Oh,
like, well,
Lord."
they're, and that's what it's going to be. And then suddenly he kicks that door and the kid goes flying off that balcony. I'm like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Like a 3-story
Oh, yeah.
balcony. And he probably was dead, at least not knocked the fuck out before he hit the ground because
sure.
the door smashed his face
Yeah.
badly. And he was, like we said, a kid, a young child.
And I don't know. I was not expecting that.
No.
And that kind of kicks off what happens because what happens in that moment is, again, different from what happened to Michael. When he
Yes.
killed his sister, he just comes out, his
didn't
parents
move.
find him,
Yeah.
and he's just glassed. You know,
Yeah.
he's just like, yeah, that
Yeah,
happened.
he just stood there like, meh. Which also, that always kind of made me wonder, too, why Michael didn't just kill his parents. Like, while he stood there, he had every option, every chance to kill him.
Yeah.
When the cops got there, he could have started freaking swinging and killing them. But he didn't. He killed his sister, and then it's like, this has been, my thirst has been quenched.
Yeah.
Time to go into shutdown mode.
Right. With Corey, obviously, he's in a panic because he's like, oh, shit, what did I do?
No, he's fucking,
Well, I mean, there's
He's in shock.
There's panic in his eyes.
oh yeah. Like
you
when
know?
he looks over that balcony, because he's still holding that knife.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, all the parents hear is, I'm going to fucking kill you. And then their child comes crashing down.
Mm-hmm.
And they look up and he's standing there with a fucking knife.
Yeah.
And
So-
you're just like, oh, fuck. They think, like, it made my heart sink. I felt so fucking bad for Corey. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely devastated because you had this young, really nice guy who, because of a prank that went horribly wrong, a child died, a child that he cared about. I mean, I know I fucking have told my siblings I would kill them. and
Sure, I mean, we've
shit
all
like that in
done
anger.
that.
Like, he wasn't going to kill the kid.
Right.
He might have scared the fuck out of him if he got out without, you know, the way that it happened. But he wasn't ever going to actually hurt the child.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, definitely like that like, oh fuck, what's gonna happen? And you really see that when he's driving away in the police car and Lori standing there looking at him.
Yeah.
And it's like he knew his life was over.
Yeah. And all because of an accident. Mm-hmm. And that genuinely, I mean, in that moment, and maybe this is part of the movie that I felt like they really could have played with a little bit differently. Not that I'm complaining, because again, I do love it. Because over time, we do lose a little sympathy for him.
Oh, 100%.
But at the beginning, I mean, it's just like, you know, you sympathize with this kid because the town turns on him. Yeah. And his life is ruined. All because of an accident, and they don't give a damn about the facts, because we know what the facts are. Yeah. They don't care. He killed a kid. He's a baby killer, I think one of them called him.
Yeah, even went as far as to call him a pedophile. Yeah. Like, why? Because he's a male babysitter? Like, probably. He was somebody saving up for freaking college. Yeah. And it's just, and not all the town. No. You know, like, he does have the mechanic that he works for, who kind of makes me wonder if he wasn't already dating Corey's mom, because they do seem to have, like, some kind of, it doesn't feel like a relationship, but yet he always seems to be there. Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, well, this is as good as it's going to get type thing. But he was a really nice man. Yeah. Really nice man. And I feel like he loved Corey in like a father to son way. Like, he wanted to do as much as he could for him. He gave him a motorcycle. He gave him a job. You know, he helped take care of Corey. Yeah. And even Lori, she knew about him. So when he gets jumped by the asshole teenagers just because he won't buy them fucking alcohol, they're the ones that call him a pedophile. And she stands up for him and even helps him, you know, get his revenge by popping the tire. But she understands it because she was also made out to be like,
they call her
blight.
Freak show. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's just.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we go through this, and like I said, I feel like that there's an interesting dichotomy they're trying to create with Corey in relationship to Michael, because we're talking about two characters who are going to go down the same road, but it's posing the question, what makes the killer? Yeah. Because Michael just seemed like it was in him. He, 6 years old, snapped one and said, I'm going to just go kill my sister just to see what it feels like. And then that's the starting point for his road. Corey didn't seem to have any of this. No. So the question is, was it always there, or did the town make him that way?
Which is something that they posed in the movie when they, later on in the movie, and Laurie's going on about how he seems like he's changed. And they talk to the father of the little boy, who did not hold resentment towards Corey.
Which I was happy to see, because...
Oh, yeah, because we saw the mom, too. Yeah. And she was a fucking twat waffle. But the father said, like, he was a sweet, loving person. And he said, he saw him walking and thought about saying something to him and being angry at him. And then when he saw him, the look in his eyes, he's like, it was not that sweet boy who used to mow my lawn. Yeah. And he said, the question is, was it there and nobody ever saw it? Or was it something that all these events put in him? Yeah. And what I loved about that too is they never answered that question. They didn't. Which is it's a very fascinating thing, because I honestly would love to have an answer, but I don't really know if there is an answer. I think that there are different types of people. Some do have it, and some are created that way. Yeah. And I feel like, in my heart of hearts, I feel that Corey was pushed to that. Now, there was a scene in the movie that, if people wanted to say, well, there's a supernatural point, you could say that, but which is the point goes back to what Lester was talking about, and where this whole
No doubt.
He puts the thing inside it.
No doubt.
Not making fun of you, Lester, but the whole he puts it inside of him.
Right.
That scene.
Yeah, but I even kind of took an observation at it, and I told you that when we watched it. Now, there was, like, prior to this scene, Corey was trying to get back out in the world. He was with Lori's granddaughter. She took him out to a club, and that's where he got accosted by the child's mother.
Yep.
And, he just felt like he was targeted. He was like, why did you do this to me? You brought me out here, and now I'm being, vilified again. And I can understand how that would really mess with you because you're having a great time, and then suddenly all this shit from the past is brought right back up. Everything that you've been trying to forget about for the day.
Yeah. You have an angry lady literally screaming at you that you're not allowed to have fun because you took all of her son's future fun away.
Yeah.
Which, again, yes, he did. The child died, but it was an accident.
Correct. And that's what makes it so frustrating because you want to sympathize with the mom, but you can't. I don't feel like you can. No. Because I don't know how I would feel in that situation, but if I had to look at it objectively, at the end of the day, if it was an accident, I cannot. I have to find a way to put it aside. Yeah,
you have to find that, even as people who aren't religious, we would have to find it in our hearts to forgive the person because it wasn't their fault.
Yeah, they didn't do it maliciously. It was just how it happened.
Yeah.
And that's what he was not actively trying to kill the child. It was just he was trying to get out, didn't think about it, and the kid was there.
And literally before the incident with the child happened, when he doesn't know that it's a prank and he's starting to freak out thinking, oh shit, Michael Myers is here because the door's standing open and, this is gone and that's here, and he hears the kids screaming for help. Mm-hmm. And he goes to try and save this child. He doesn't do it in the fastest sense, but he still decided to put his life in danger to save this kid that he was taking care of. He was panicking when he could not find this child.
Right.
And everything led up to the child dying, so you can't even imagine how that alone affected him, let alone the entire town, but literally not even a full handful of people who just look at him like he's just as bad as Michael.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know how I would feel in that situation, but I honestly feel like I would want to be like the father. I'd want to forgive. And watching the mom, again, because we saw it, we're looking at it through Corey's eyes, saying it's not right. It's not right what she's doing to him. So he gets pushed out of the bar. He's kind of on a panic. He goes down the road, and then those fucking dickhead teenagers come back.
Asshole teenagers.
And throw him off a bridge.
Yeah. The one throws him off the bridge. But
it's an accident. No. He slipped. Whatever the fuck. He threw him off that bridge. Luckily, he didn't die. I'm really surprised he didn't break his neck.
Miraculously. Didn't die or break any fucking bones because that was a pretty tall bridge.
So as he falls there, I would say this is probably the one instance of the film that just seemed a little odd for me, is when Michael drags him into the sewer. And it just was like, okay.
Well, see,
it's a little weird.
Question like the whole Michael, because we see there's a bum who lives under the bridge. Literally, Michael has a sewer pipe, and it's like, 20, 30 feet away is where this bum is living, has his fire pit set up, his tent set up. Michael has left him alone for what seems like at least the 3-4 years since he's been missing. Mm-hmm. He's left this man alone. And the man knows he's in there.
It's probably because it's actually the shape. No, if you didn't know, fun fact, Nick Castle, the guy who played Michael Myers originally, was the bum.
Yes.
So I thought that was a nice. And honestly, I was even telling Katrina this. I've thought for a moment that the bum was going to be revealed as Michael, and I was like, wouldn't that be some shit,
Yeah.
Like he's just wandering around town as this bum, and no one's been the wiser. But obviously they didn't do that. And then, of course, when the bum showed up and, like, did, like, a flashing... Like, he didn't flash, but he was... I don't know what he was doing, but...
Yeah.
Kind of did, like, acting crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. But at the beginning, like, when I saw him, like, walking away from that sewer grate...
Yeah.
And just with the thing... It made me wonder for a minute. I was like, is that going to be... Because they never showed him. They just kind of panned over to the sewer, and the bum was just walking, minding his own business. I was like, that would be some clever shit.
See, it almost makes me wonder if he wasn't the one nursing Michael back to health.
Wouldn't be the first time. You know, we saw that in part 5. Some bum under the bridge helped him up and nursed him back to health for an entire year. So think about it, people.
Yep.
If you want to hate on certain things, just think about it.
The bum was obsessed with him and wanted, because they're like, again, leading up to when Corey first meets Michael, which is after he wakes up in the sewer. You know, he's stumbling around looking like, where the fuck is he? There's empty water bottles, and you know somebody's been living in there. And as he walks down one of the little areas where he sees, the exit, Michael reaches through the wall and chokes him.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there choking him, and you're like, fuck, well, here, Corey's gonna die.
Yeah.
And then there's a flash. And it's like it's almost like Michael reads Corey's mind. At least that's what it makes you, almost seems like it's pushing for you to see, or to come to conclusion, because you see the incident with the child, and then the people calling him a baby killer and a murderer and all this kind of stuff, and then Michael just lets him go. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, well, fuck, did he, like, put something into him, like people were thinking, or did he, like, read his mind? Does he just see, like, oh,
I think, and I honestly feel like this is compounded based on the father's story.
Yes.
Where he said that he looked into Corey's eyes and that was not the same kid. I feel like that's what was being conveyed, even though it was kind of coming off supernatural. Yeah. Michael saw that look. He saw that evil in his eye, and it was like, oh, you're like me. I'll let you go. And that was what that really boiled down to. Granted, they did it in a very flashy way, but I think it was recognizing, I see the same in you that I have. Whether it was there from the beginning or something that just came about because of the town, don't know. I still like to think, based on what happened to Corey right before this moment, I feel like he snapped. I honestly, like, in my heart of hearts, I do not feel Corey ever had that in him. Maybe to, obviously, I guess if you're going to do heinous shit, I guess you have to have a little in you. But I feel like we all kind of have a little in us in some way or another. I just feel like he had been pushed to the brink. I mean, goddamn, being thrown off a bridge.
Yeah.
And then
By teenagers.
And the shit they were saying to him, all this stuff coming to a head. And then when he crawls out, the fucking bum attacks him. And technically, that was self-defense, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, so far, even, like, before we get to that part, the whole, him seeing basically the flashback.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly feel like it's more of a, what if it wasn't Michael seeing, like, I agree that he saw the same fucked upness in Corey's eyes, but I feel like, what if that whole scene was for Corey and it was him having that flashback? Because like we talked about last night when we were talking about the movie, and I said, what if the whole, when Corey knocked the child off, he almost felt relieved. Like, this kid's a little shit. He's, thought he would one up a grown man, and then he got what he deserved type thing. Mm-hmm. Like, it never says how he felt in that moment. You just assume that he was panicked and upset and everything else. But what if he had that, like, wave of, it's fine.
Yeah.
And that's what Michael saw. He's not scared anymore. he's not scared of Michael. He's not scared of these assholes. He's fucking done. Like
Yeah.
you said, the snap, he is done. You want to kill me? Fucking kill me. And Michael's just like, well, you're like me. Go do what you do.
Yeah. Now, I will say that the team up aspect of it was a little bizarre, but at the same time, because I think we were even kind of talking about this as it was kind of happening, it was almost playing off of that idea from the last film. As he kills, he transcends, and it makes him stronger. And I think they tried to play on that just a little bit, because when he brought that guy in, the cop, and he stabbed him, he kind of sitting there shaking like, oh yeah, like he's getting power.
Because he seems so old and feeble.
Right.
At first.
But the beauty of that is, he is old and feeble.
Yeah.
He is 65 years old at this point, if I've done the math correctly. Furthermore, he was shot, stabbed, God knows what happened. Like we saw.
He's been hit by vehicles. He's been shot multiple fucking times. He's been stabbed. He's been beaten with the baseball bats and pipes. And
well, that's what I was going to say. Just taking a look at all the shit that he went through at the end of Halloween Kills. He had like a surgeon. He had a sudden surge of adrenaline that got him out of that situation. But now, after it was all over and the adrenaline's gone, he's a man.
Exactly. And they literally show on that, because obviously Corey goes, kind of tries to go back to normal after the incident with Michael. But then him and his girlfriend, which is Laurie's granddaughter, were, I can't say picked on or accosted.
The cop wouldn't get a hint. He was
sweet on Laurie's granddaughter.
Yeah. And he saw the dude there.
Yeah. He literally he was being fucking creepy. Like super creepy. Touching on her. She was literally showing every sign that she did not want him near her.
And she did prior to that too.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want you.
But, Corey has enough and he snaps, and then he fucks with the cop to get him to follow him back to where Michael is. And then when he gets in there, Michael doesn't put up a hell of a lot of fight until, like, it takes both of them to take the cop down.
Yeah.
And even after they take the cop down and everything else, it's like Corey finally wants to be Michael. He wants to be that boogeyman. And when he goes back and takes Michael's mask, he takes it.
Yeah.
They fight, and Michael cannot put up a fight. Like, he gets fucking rolled over, and Corey takes the mask and fucking leaves, and just leaves Michael there. We see him get up, and obviously he's going after to get his mask back. But it's just, you realize that he's literally just a man in a mask. He is an old man whose shit has finally caught up to him, because even if you take away all the being shot and stabbed and everything else, he was locked in a fucking burning house. Like, that man's lungs have got to be blacker than fucking black.
Yeah. And I think that element is what people might have a problem with. If I'm wrong, that's why the audience, people who hate this movie, I want to understand it, because Michael is seen as weak and feeble, and genuinely, I feel that's why we got the version we got in Kills, is so we could roll over to this version, which is a man who's old and his time is just, it's come to an end, and it's not about, well, he's always been this weak man. It was going to catch up to him. He's not supernatural. Yeah. They grounded this story as so grounded as you possibly could be.
Yeah.
Just to say, don't forget, I know you think he's a boogeyman, but he's just a man.
Yeah.
And it's about deconstructing that idea. And that's what they did by the time it was all over. It was saying everyone is freaked out by a boogeyman.
Yeah.
We've built this up in our head so much. And the end of the film has to be, he's just a man. There's no boogeyman. everyone needs to put it the fuck to bed.
And I think that's one of the cool things about it, because I feel like Corey was the first person to realize that. You're not some boogeyman. I feel like he really realized that when it took him and Michael to take down the cop. Because, you know, he knew all the stories about Michael. He knew how many people he killed. And he's seeing this man who's having trouble stabbing one person who's literally being held down.
Yeah.
And when he comes back to get the mask, I feel like in Corey's mind, it was almost like, you're not Michael anymore. You're weak. You're pathetic. I'm going to take it. I'm going to be the Michael everybody fears. I'm the new boogeyman. You're nothing.
Yeah. And that's what he goes and does. I mean,
he literally goes after freaking Lori.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, obviously after killing the asshole teenagers, and even sadly kills the man who was a fucking father to him.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time it gets to Lori, he goes out not the way I was expecting. Because I honestly thought Lori was going to kill him, and it makes you think she's going to kill him. And then he literally kills himself just for, because he says, if I can't have your granddaughter, nobody can.
Yeah.
And he kills himself, and then her granddaughter walks in and thinks that Lori fucking killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the granddaughter runs off and doesn't want to be with Lori, you know, Lori thinking about suicide. She was contemplating, you know, shooting herself for the second time. Of course, the first time, you know, it was a ruse.
So, real quick, just out of curiosity, did you think that she assumed that was Corey? Because, I mean, obviously they were building up.
I think she knew Corey was coming. I don't think she realized Michael was as close as he was.
But, I mean, did you think that she knew that was Corey behind the mask?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
I think she did not act surprised in the fucking slightest. And
That's
when
true.
she said she knew, you know, like the whole, setting it up to like supposedly commit suicide and call the cops there. And then she fucking knew he was there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was waiting for him, shot him, he falls down. And she does not act surprised in the slightest when he takes that mask off. Like, I think she realized that the shit she saw in his eyes, she even said that was the same eyes as Michael. I think she realized he was coming for her. Mm-hmm. Whether it was the whole, he knew she was Michael's survivor, so he was going to take her down for Michael type thing, or if it was just the whole, she was the only thing standing in his way from him having what he wanted, which was her granddaughter.
Yeah.
But when the showdown with Lori and Michael happens, I honestly, through the entire fucking movie, I thought Laurie Strode was going to die.
So did I.
And I was not happy about the idea of it, because I wanted her to have her happy life. And she did have a happy couple years, or however long it had been.
She tried, she did try to move on, which I thought was nice.
She, talked about how her house wasn't a cage, and she, she had one fucking gun that we ever saw, that one tiny little gun. Mm-hmm. But she showed us that she's still a Laurie Strode that we remembered from the last movie. Although she's older, just like Michael's older, although she's been through shit, she still has that fighting spirit. And even when she wants to give up, because for the third time, she's contemplating suicide because she feels like she's lost everything, which would be her grandchild. And as Michael, because, she fucks him up good, gets him on the counter, stabs his damn hands with fucking knives, tips the refrigerator on him. Yeah, the refrigerator. And then when she's about, to kill him, and he rips his fucking hand off that blade and starts strangling him, she's just telling him to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that for her, that's how she wanted to go out. If she was going to go out, let it fucking be them killing each other at the same time. If I'm going to die, you're going to die with me.
Yeah.
And her granddaughter saves her. And, for yet again in the movie, it almost makes you question if Michael is just a man. because she fucking, I mean, his hand is literally almost cut in half and he's bleeding. She slices his throat, freaking cuts his wrist, and it seems like it takes forever for him to finally just die.
Yeah.
And then the very end and the parade through fucking town, like I was waiting for him to fight back or to get up or something was happening. And then it just ends with that big ass metal grinder. And you just see this man who has tormented this town and this woman for generations. Or, well, I guess can't really say generations, but, you know, decades. Finally is gone.
Yeah.
There is no coming back. He is mush.
Yeah.
No coming back.
The fact that they showed it too, it
Yes.
was like, oh my God.
Like you saw him I mean, and they even tied his ass down. Like she even says when they enter the house that he's dead, but they don't take any chances. He is tied down to the roof of that car. They have police escorts. People are lining the fucking streets. And it's like an entire parade where the entire community comes out to watch this man finally die and be gone forever from their lives.
And that whole parade was the point that I think I was trying to make about demystifying the boogeyman. They needed to do that.
Yeah.
They needed to say, look, we have him here.
Yeah.
He is going to be dead. If he's not already, we're going to kill him. Come, watch. Yeah. The man that you think is the boogeyman, he's gone. You saw it? You see it? He's mush. He's dead. He's gone. Boogeyman gone.
Yeah.
So the town can now heal.
Yes.
All the shit that they've been through, all the pain, all the anguish.
Yep.
There's no more boogeyman. It's done. And it had to be that way.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
You to make the town, because the town, more than any of the other films, was a central figure to a lot of these films. It was important because we saw how the people treated Corey, how they treated Lori, how they panicked, freaked out, what the mentality of Haddonfield. And I've even heard people online say that Haddonfield was just a shit town. I mean, but maybe they weren't up until that point. You know, Michael did that to them. The idea of the boogeyman, the legend of this thing was so ingrained into this community. Why? I mean, how could it be anything but that? They're in constant fear.
Well, like, yeah, because you would have, well, it would be generations.
Yeah.
Because you have Lori's generation, who are all the older people in town who remember Michael from the very first time he came and how many people he killed. And then you have, you know, like her daughter's generation, not so much. But then when he comes back and he kills more people and more teenagers, then you have his entire granddaughter's generation who's going to be fucked up from everything that happened. And then even now you have to think of, well, if they didn't kill Michael, then it would just continue. All these teenagers would be terrified. When they got to adults, they'd be terrified. Their children would be terrified. Their children's children would be terrified, just like he did with all of, like, Lori and everybody else in that town. And he's finally gone. Yeah. And it's like that weight has been lifted. And the thing is, and I think the thing that makes it so much better is it wasn't a celebration.
Yeah.
There was nobody cheering. There was nobody, you know, it wasn't like a big party. It was like a fucking funeral procession.
Yeah.
Like you would have seen for a president or the queen or whatever, like, you know, bringing him through so everybody could see him. But then when he's gone, it's like everybody's just, well, and disperse.
Yeah. But I mean,
like, you can breathe easy.
Yeah, you can breathe easy. Now it's time to heal. And Halloween ends, as they say, at the end. What more could you want? It's a full arc that sticks the landing all the way through.
The only one that sticks the landing. Freddy came back. Jason came back. Chucky came back. He's dead. He can't come back from that unless you want to make it supernatural, which you don't freaking need. Every other horror movie icon is supernatural, except for Leatherface.
Yeah. And
Leatherface and Michael Myers are the only two. Jason used to be somebody who you could be scared of because somebody like him could exist. But then they killed him and they brought him back.
as a zombie.
Yeah. And continued. Kill him, bring him back, kill him, bring him back. Same thing with, Freddy Krueger, which he was already supernatural. Chucky was already supernatural. But with Michael Myers, don't bring him back.
Yeah.
You can make other Halloween movies. You could, like I said, freaking explore what he was doing when he wasn't there. Years of his life, you can't tell me he stayed in that sewer for 4 freaking years.
Mm-hmm. I think they implied that he was killing vagrants at some point. Of course, I didn't really quite catch a lot of the details. But again, it also makes you wonder why he left that one alone.
Exactly. I mean, but I feel like I don't want to see any more Michael Myers.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Halloween movies. I like this arc of Halloween. But I don't want to see any more. But I can say that the same with I don't want to see any more Jason. I don't want to see any more Freddy Krueger. We are still watching Child's Play, which I want it to come to an end like Michael Myers. I want it to be where Tiffany is dead and Chucky is dead and all the people that they have fucked up along the way finally get to live their life. Even their fucking kids. I want Glenn and Glenda to get to live a peaceful life without their psychotic ass parents looming over them.
Mm-hmm.
And Nika, oh my God, I want that girl to get her fucking happy ending, which I don't know how it's going to happen. But I want her to have a happy life. But after he's gone, I don't want to see more of him.
I'm of the mindset that I feel like we'll see another Halloween at some point. I don't know what you'll do. I don't really know. I'm kind of like you with Halloween. I feel like we've gotten more than enough conclusions.
Like you said, there's like 4 different storylines you could follow.
Yeah.
Like we've had enough. I want to see new horror movies that have new stories. The Black Phone was a really good freaking horror movie with a really good story, and it wasn't like every other freaking killer.
Mm-hmm.
It was different.
Yeah. And very realistic and very terrifying.
Yes.
If you think about it.
Like, other than the whole supernatural aspect with the telephone, which you could just say was all in the boy's head.
Mm-hmm.
But it was different. And that's what I want. I want to see something different. I'm so tired of the same things. Lamb was different.
Yeah. And
like,
awesome.
A Quiet Place. Oh my God, I can't wait till the next freaking movie for that.
Yeah.
But I'm just tired of seeing the exact same character doing the exact same thing for an extended amount of time with no type of conclusion. Because it can't be a conclusion if you're just going to continue to bring him back. And I was honestly worried through that movie, especially when all the shit with Corey. Sorry. I'm horrible with names. But ever since everything with Corey happened, I was terrified that they were going to kill off Michael and then Corey was just going to be the new boogeyman. And I did not want that. Not just because Michael Myers isn't like a... what do you call it? Like a persona or whatever?
Well,
it's
I mean,
him.
in all actuality, I mean, if you wanted to be fair, if they had done that, it still would work because we say Michael Myers, but he's supposedly supposed to be the shape. And it's all about the silhouette and what you see, and he's just the shape in the dark that you're terrified of. And no, I kind of agree. Like, a part of me would love to see another Friday the 13th film, But there's another part of me that thinks if you're going to do that, why not do something different? Why not explore something completely fresh?
Which is something we talked about before, because if you're going to do another Friday the 13th, what I want to see is what happened to Jason when you thought he drowned.
Yeah, that would be fascinating.
Because we talked about that, and I was like, what if he got just like an undercurrent type thing, got drugged down one of the channels or whatever and crawled out, and he just didn't know where the fuck he was and lived for years not knowing where he was and just surviving off of the elements, which could explain why he didn't talk and everything else. And then when he finally finds his way back to his mom, he sees her fucking killed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't know what his mom's been doing. All he sees is some bitch cutting her fucking head off.
Yeah.
And then that's what sparks everything else. But make it to where that's where the movie ends.
Yeah.
Like, make it his journey. He could have killed hitchhikers, people, fucking camping and whatever. He could be far enough away from the camp to still do harm and people not realize he's doing it.
Well, that's why I still feel like it would be more fascinating to tell Pamela's story and actually examine that from the moment of before conception up until the moment he dies and she snaps. Because I think with the right script and the right people behind that, that would be a heartbreaking, heart-wrenching tale. Because it really is, if you think about it, and I've talked about that before on the show. I mean, she's a tragic figure that people don't see in 100%. That way. 100%. But with Michael, that's a character, as I was saying to Patrick, the reason exploring his backstory would have hurt this film is because it's about taking away the boogeyman, deconstructing the idea, because everyone's got it built up in their head. Who is this boogeyman? What's he about? And then we're just like, doesn't fucking matter. He's a man.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter what you think about this guy and his legend and how indestructible. That's all built up in your head because of all the shit that's happened. And it's terrible. Mm-hmm. But you're made to believe he's some supernatural element when he is far from it.
It could literally, with Michael, I feel like he was probably a very normal child. Maybe was closed off. But you think of like younger kids, and especially back then, I remember growing up and freaking parents freaking out over kids watching Power Rangers because it was making them do karate moves and they were getting hurt. My brother wasn't allowed to watch WWF or WWE because he would try to recreate it. Literally, that could just be something as simple as what Michael did. Maybe he saw a scary movie where somebody kills somebody and he is like, I wonder what that would feel like. And then just did it. And then realized he liked it. And then just continued on. There have been so many people in real life who have fucking done shit like that. It is a very true and grounding story, like you said, because it's something that could happen.
Yeah.
You see the freaking girl who did the Slender Man murders. Like, she killed other children. And she was a child herself and killed other kids. And literally, when asked why you did it, she just said, I wanted to know what it felt like to kill somebody.
And people like that, I feel like those are those people that they talk about having it in them. I think they are drawn to the dark elements. They already have that seed of darkness in them. Yeah. And if that is your answer, just to see. You've been evil from minute one. The moment you came, I could be wrong because there have not been enough studies, I guess, to prove otherwise.
And it was said that she was, abused and shit like that.
And it's stuff like that makes me curious. If she was in a loving home, would those dark tendencies eventually just surface? Yeah. Because that's how I feel about Corey. I don't feel he was that person. I feel like it was he was a victim of circumstance that put him to that point where it's like, I'm fucking done, versus that child who just said, see what it felt like.
Which I think it definitely, because I feel like Corey and Lori's granddaughter were two sides of the same coin, because she could have went I mean, even Laurie Strode could have went just the way that Corey did. Being just bullied by an entire town, yet feeling like you have to stay there because that's where your family is, or that's, you know, the only place you've ever known. And you stay there and you're just looked at as, oh, you're the person who brought all this evil onto us, or you're the person who, you know, killed a kid and all this type of shit. But yet they both handle it differently, and they both have their different lives, but yet they're both in the same type of position and could have went either way.
Yeah.
Corey could have realized that the people were just assholes and that he wanted to help protect Lori and Lori's granddaughter and be there, but he didn't. It all got to him, and he finally just said, fuck it.
Yeah, these are our thoughts on David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy. I felt like they did something phenomenal. Makes me excited to see what he's going to do with The Exorcist, because that's the next film that I'm almost positive is on his list. It's about to start filming here pretty soon. Ellen Burstyn's coming back, who was the mom in the original film. So I'm curious to see how that pans out. Really curious if he'll ever try to rope Linda Blair back in, but I don't know what his approach to the film is going to be.
Yeah.
So I don't want to assume anything, but I understand people are having problems, at least with the last two films. And I honestly feel like it has to do with that they are not traditional slasher films in the sense that it's just, you know, hey, he's going around killing, and then we got to kill the boogeyman. There are deeper themes. Now, I'm not saying that the people who are mad are stupid.
No.
That they don't understand the deeper themes. I'm not saying that at all. But maybe they are taking an approach that maybe is not their cup of tea. I feel like that, especially Halloween Ends, it's a slow burn.
Yeah.
It really is.
And you don't see Michael through a lot of, I mean, he really does not kill that many people.
No, I think they said 4 at most.
Yeah. Like, it's Corey doing the killing.
Yeah. So I could understand why people would be a little pissed. But I feel like if you can just step away from what you want from these movies.
Yeah.
And then re-examine it through what is being presented. It's really fascinating. It's a great character study that puts Corey as our proxy in a manner of speaking, not just for Michael, but you're seeing the same situation happen to someone else, but in a different, in almost the opposite way. Like I said, in every aspect, he is the opposite of Michael.
Yeah.
And then they both diverge at the same point, in the movie, to where they become killers and they want to be this boogeyman. But it just the exploration of that, and then of course what it's doing to the town, and then the boogeyman aspect, all this other stuff, is so many themes, and it might be a lot for some people, but I think it's just so fascinating. For me, it is.
Yeah.
And I understand it's not for everybody. Hell, I don't like Italian horror movies, and I know some people love the shit out of that. I think they're boring as shit. But
I just feel like Michael Myers has never been just a normal slasher. He is smart. And that's not saying any of the other ones aren't smart, because we obviously know Chucky's super smart and like 5 steps ahead of everybody. But he does things differently. Like, he does kill people, and he kills people when they're in his path, just like, Jason and everything, or Leatherface. But he's very calculating. He knows when to walk away. He knows when to wait and to bide his time. He knows where you are, when you're going to be there, what you're fucking doing. He sits and he watches and he waits. And I think that is one of the things that makes him most terrifying, because that is stuff that people in real life who have done atrocities like Michael do. They wait. It is a game. He is the cat and you are the mouse. 100%.
yeah, I really don't know what more we can say about it. I don't think we've changed anybody's minds, but I'm hoping, for those who love the movie, I think I'm hoping they'll agree with what we said. Maybe they'll even have some takes that we didn't even think about, but maybe we made them see something that maybe they didn't see. And for those that hated it,
I want to know why.
Yeah.
Why do you hate it? Is it because Michael wasn't doing all the killings? And if so, did you hate the one before this? If it's just, the whole, well, they killed Michael at the end, well, what did you expect? How long do you think he could continue to kill people the way that he did? Eventually, he was going to be too old and feeble to do anything.
I mean, I will kind of agree with that. With Halloween ends, okay? Ends. You're not going to call it ends if you're not going to end it.
Exactly.
And I think I would have been disappointed, like you said, that they just set it up for someone else to take up the mantle.
Yeah.
Because then you're saying, well, then it doesn't technically end. So I felt like we got a finite ending.
Yes.
It's done.
Both killers were taken out. One, no, technically, he did stab himself in the own throat, Corey, but Michael was the one that technically finished his ass off because somehow
he had
he had that
that crazy strength that just let him go. But anyway, thank you for listening. I know we've been chatting for almost 2 hours now.
Oh damn.
Well, we have we had a lot to say. We're very passionate about this trilogy, and we know a lot of other people out there who hate it or just equally as passionate. So much so that I've seen a lot of people saying, "I don't want to hear your negativity anymore." I get it, but let us know how you feel about Halloween, the Halloween trilogy from Blumhouse, from David Gordon Green. You can do that on Twitter if you want to send us all your negative feedback. If you want to send us some positive feedback, I'd love that. If you want to say it in greater detail, you can send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com. Again, I'll listen to your negativity. It's fine. I'll take some of the brunt so you don't push it off on everybody else. And if you love social media groups, you can follow us on Facebook. Join our Facebook group. Hang out with fellow horror fans like yourselves. You can always find us on Instagram to see an assortment of horror images. And if you Discord, you can join us over on Discord at the Horror Ramblers Room, and we can discuss horror stuff over there. There's not a lot of people there, but, come on, be one of the first and start a trend. If you're feeling generous and want to support the show financially, you can head over to patreon.com/pencil-and-paper-productions, chuck in $1, and help this and other shows like it grow. And if you want to say nice things about the show, head on over to Apple Podcasts and hit that 5 stars and give us that 5-star review. You don't have to write anything. You just hit the 5 stars and give it to us, and then we'll be happy with that. But you can also express your feelings through a comment if you want to, and you can help the show grow at the same time. It's all a beautiful thing. That's what I'm trying to say. You can do that very same thing on Spotify if you're so inclined, and even answer our questions and polls. I might even put up the poll, did you like this movie? And I'd love to see that bar hit a full 90% no, or whatever. I'll probably put that up. Anyway, it's all appreciated. Most importantly, tell your fellow horror fiends to search Horror Ramblings on the preferred podcasting platform. If nothing else, keep up with any and all things at pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes for your convenience. And remember, stay spooky out there.
This has been the Horror Ramblings Podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.